I'm Mo. Today I'm going to do the end of the year book tag. This tag was created by Ariel Bissett and it's been going on for many years. It's one of those tags that the whole book community usually does, or if they don't do it every year, they'll do it like every other year or every few years, and it's a perfect tag for that. You could do this tag every year, similar to the mid-year tag, or you could do it every few years. I don't think I've done this tag yet on my channel, and I thought this year would be a good year to do it. Normally, most people do this tag earlier in the year. It's really concerning kind of the last quarter, so people do it as early as October, sometimes even late September, or they do it all the way through to December. To me, this tag, although there's mention of autumnal books, feels more like a very end of the year kind of tag. So late November, early December, and just kind of the end of the year reading. I count my reading all the way up until December 31st for that current year. Some people like to end their year early. They end it before Vlogmas, or they end it before the holiday season so they don't have to worry about it. But personally, I'm just involved in a full calendar year, so my year ends just like the calendar. Question number 1. Are there any books that you started this year that you need to finish? There are quite a few books that I started this year that I DNF'd. I don't talk about my DNFs in my wrap-ups for the most part. Every once in a while I will mention them, but I have decided that I'm not going to finish any of the books that I DNF'd this year. There's even a couple left over from 2020 that I haven't finished yet, but I am going to try and tie them kind of all up in the beginning of 2022. So look out for some videos on finishing DNFs. The 3 books that I want to finish before the end of the year are probably the 3 books that I'm currently reading. I'm currently reading Ball 4 by Jim Bouton. This is a nonfiction about Jim Bouton, who was a Major League ball player, and he was a star pitcher for a very short amount of time and then tragically hurt his arm and was sent back down to the minor leagues. This is kind of his diary entry style story of him returning to the major leagues, the challenges that he faced, and it's a little bit of a tell-all of what the major leagues are actually like. Another book that I'm currently reading that I would like to finish as well is The Fight by Norman Mailer. This is the first Norman Mailer book I've read, and this is another nonfiction book about a fight that took place in Africa. It was called The Rumble in the Jungle, and it was between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. They're both in this book, and they're both characters in this book, although they're also real people, and this is a nonfiction, but so is Norman Mailer. He writes himself into this nonfiction in a very fictional sort of way. The characters are idealized in a way and spoken about in a way that this comes off as a very narrative nonfiction. The last book that I'm currently reading that I want to finish is the autobiography of Malcolm X by Malcolm X as told to Alex Haley. The story of the civil rights leader Malcolm X in his own words. I've been reading this one on audio and it is quite long, so it's taking me a while to get through, but I am loving every minute of it. All these books are nonfiction, and they're all for Nonfiction November, so hopefully by the time this tag goes up, I'll have finished all of these books already, and you'll be able to hear more of my thoughts on them in my November reading wrap-up. Question number 2 is, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? And I'm going to say, because I'm doing this tag so late, that I don't have an autumnal book, but I have some wintry books that I want to read. I was super happy that Cloak and Dagger Christmas is going on again all December. You can check out Janelle at Two Fawns of Books channel in the description box below for more about Cloak and Dagger Christmas. This is one of the favorite readathons that I participated in 2020, and I'm so happy to be participating in it again in 2021. This is a readathon where you read mysteries all December. One of the mysteries that I really want to get to in Cloak and Dagger Christmas is Dorothy Sayers' A natural death. This is also my book 1 for Booktube Spin 4. I think it'll be a great opportunity to finish out my Booktube Spin book and also to participate in Cloak and Dagger Christmas. To me, winter and even autumn really makes me want to read mysteries. It makes me want to read detective novels and mysteries and slightly maybe spooky books, but not in the horror genre that many people follow, but more in those cozy mysteries or whodunits that I love so much. So I'm definitely counting this as my wintry book to transition into the end of the year. Question number 3, is there a new release that you're still waiting on? So no, I don't follow new releases, and there aren't really any books that I'm waiting to get my hands on. I always have a running list of books that I'm looking for and on the lookout for, but there's nothing that I'm like dying to read. Honestly, right now, I just want to read the books that I have so that I can get my TBR down, but also so that I can get to all these books that I've been wanting to read all year. Question number 4, what are 3 books that you want to finish before the end of 2021? So I will not pick any of the books that I've already picked, even though those are all books that I want to finish before the end of the year. I would really like to get to my Booktube Spin 3 book 1 book, which is Big Bang by David Bowman. This is a historical fiction and kind of a retelling novel, nonfiction, he calls it. I know it's surrounding the time of JFK and that assassination, which kind of fits in well with reading Malcolm X because he mentions the assassination of JFK as well. This is nonfiction and this is fiction, but I think this one would be a good one. I would love to be able to get to this one in December, but it is so long, and I have a feeling this might be the one I don't necessarily get to. 2 other books that I would really like to get to by the end of the year are both by Indigenous American authors. I would have liked to participate in Indigathon in November, but I had too much other reading to do, so it would be really cool to get to at least one Indigenous author by the end of the year. There is by Tommy Orange, and I think this is kind of a slice of life following a few different Native Americans as they go through their lives and how they navigate living on the reservation and how they navigate their specific family issues and their place in the larger cultural world. I'm not sure about that, so don't quote me on it, but it does sound really interesting. It got a lot of buzz a few years ago, and I would definitely like to get to this at some point, either by the end of the year or soon in the new year. Another one is Leslie Marmon Silko's Ceremony. This is kind of a coming-of-age story of a Native American man who has gone to war and has to come back to his own country and his own community and figure life out now that war is over. It is quite short. These are both fiction books, and there's a lot of other Indigenous books that I'd be super interested to read or get my hands on. These are some of the only American Indigenous books that I have. I would also love to read books by other Indigenous authors, Indigenous to other places in the world. But those are a few books that I would love to get to. I really want to read by the end of the year. Whether I will actually read them, I'm not sure. Question number 5 is there a book that could shock you and become a favorite of the year? I think that the 3 books that I'm currently reading are all really amazing, and definitely Malcolm X might make it into my favorite of the year top 10. I think that any mystery that I end up reading for Cloak and Dagger Christmas could certainly become a favorite of the year, and there's a few more fiction and nonfiction books that I definitely want to read or kind of have plans to read in December that could become a favorite of the year. Any book could become a favorite of the year for me because I usually have extremely low expectations going into them. Going into every book that I read, it's not that my expectations are low actually, it's just that I don't have any preconceived notions a lot of the time about what that book is going to be or what it's going to mean to me. So a lot of times those books will surprise me and they're worth the hype and they do become favorites or top books for me. I think right now I'm definitely gonna do like top 10 favorite and then my top 5 more favorite and then my top favorite book of the year, and then probably only do like 5 of my least favorite books, because I've definitely read a lot more good books than I've read bad books in 2021, which is always exciting. So yes, any book could shock me and become my favorite of the year, and I hope some of them do. And the last question, question number 6, is have you already started making reading plans for 2022? And yes, I have. I've started looking at the months and certain readathons that happen in those months. I'm really looking forward to March Mystery Madness in March. I'm looking forward to Nonfiction November again next year. I'm looking forward to a lot of those month-long readathons. And I'm also considering January as kind of a reset month, so I'm planning on finishing some books that I've DNF'd, and I'm planning on wrapping up some things that I want to wrap up that happened in the last couple of years on Booktube. I also love March because I use that as my TBR reset month. So in March, I go through my whole TBR, I haul books, I unhaul books, I reorganize my bookshelves. So I'm really looking forward to that as becoming like an annual tradition here on my channel. Other than that, you know, I have ideas, I have thoughts, I have things going on that I'm going to post or read. Those are all the questions in the end of the year book tag. Let me know the answers to these questions below, or if you already did this book tag, definitely leave a link in the comments below. I'm going to tag Rosie Cockshut for this one. I don't think she's done this tag yet, so I'm specifically going to call her out and tag her in this one. I would love to know what her reading plans are for the end of the year. She's always reading interesting, diverse books, and she's also doing readathons or read-alongs, and I would love to know if she has plans for next year, what are some books that she wanted to get to and hasn't yet. But also, if you haven't done this tag, feel free to consider yourself tagged and do the end of the year book tag. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks so much. Bye.